Hey everybody, today I want to spend a little bit of time talking about this MVS Mini that was just, I guess, put up online on the NEOGEO website. It's up for pre-order right now. And what I want to talk about is just a lot of the things that you might not know. There's some, other places that might have already talked about it, announced it or whatever, but I'm going to give you a little bit of a deeper dive into the device, really specifically around the game lineup. So I'm going to talk about the games that are on here. And for those of you that aren't NEOGEO fans or really know anything about NEOGEO, this video probably isn't for you because all you're going to see is that it's just a bunch of fighting games. And it is. So this one is like, if you thought any of the other revisions were heavy on fighting games, well, you're definitely not going to want this one because this one is even heavier with the fighting games and a lot of the variety was taken away. So that's a huge miss, I think, on their part, releasing this device the way they did. But there are some things that I want to mention. So let's just go ahead and get right into it. So the NEOGEO Mini is the same device. I'm going to just throw it out there right now because like within the first few minutes, that's when I drop off most of the viewers. So right off the bat, it's the same stick, same HDMI output, same buttons. Bam, it's the same device. The only thing that's different about it is the paint job, the decorations on it, right, and the game lineup. And not all the games, but there are some games in that. That's what I'm going to talk about. So it's got 45 games, and when I get into the other versions of this device, some of them had 40 games, most of them did, and there were two other versions that had 48 games. So this one's kind of like in the mid-tier as far as the amount of games that it's offering, right? So same screen, same everything. The HD output, which, nobody enjoyed the playing this on the big screen. It's the same experience. Nothing's different. No, a lot of people didn't like the button layout because it didn't match the NEOGEO pad, but a lot of folks do prefer the way that they did lay it out, and I'm actually one of them. So I prefer the way that they have the NEOGEO pad set up for this device. It makes more sense when you're actually playing some of the games, but it's not true to the original. And so, I mean, if that's what SNK produced for you to play on that NEOGEO pad, then you got to figure it out and you got to learn it that way. That's just the way it was supposed to be, right? So I get it, but this just kind of makes more sense for me. But anyway, that's not what this is about. Same deal. Everything's the same inputs. The power, HDMI, 3.5-inch screen, all this stuff, controller ports. It's got two on the sides. They're USB-C. It's the same device. It does have a new paint job. It's red. It's an MVS theme. It's got the striping, like the big red. But it's got a lot of NEOGEO branding. So there's, that's a little unusual, right? Where it should have SNK, it says NEOGEO. So maybe they have. Maybe this is their device, right? This is more the NEOGEO device where before I don't think anybody really knew that it was NEOGEO that created the NEOGEO Mini because it was an SNK, official SNK product. It wasn't an SNK licensed product. I think in this particular case, this MVS version of the NEOGEO Mini is an SNK licensed product. The other versions were SNK products that NEOGEO created for them. That's my take on that. All right, so same I/O, the same board, all that stuff's the same. So take a look at this. I'm not going to get into it. It's all right here. Take a look, pause, read it, and then push play. All right, so let's get into it. So now we're going to talk about the all the different versions. And what I'm going to do is I'm basically going to let you know about the games that are available on this device, and whether or not it's a common game, or if it's something that hadn't really been seen before in other versions. So when I talk about the versions, these are the ones that I'm going to be mentioning. So, on the far left, that's the Ace version, which is the same as the Asia in terms of the game lineup. It was a different, I think this was made in Korea or made for Korean customers. It's a special limited edition. Obviously, it's the gold and black. It's pretty, kind of cool. I would say it's pretty rare. Not very common. This might be the first time you've actually seen this. But this version is the same as the one above, which is the Asia version. It's like the red, white, and blue there. Those two both had 40 games, and it's the exact same game lineup. Okay, right below those, it's the international version, and that had a different lineup, but it also had 40 games. On the far right, that's the Christmas limited edition. This one actually had 48 games, and this was just sold, during Christmas, Christmas holiday season. I think a year ago or 2 years ago, maybe. So these were 4 different versions of the Neo Geo Mini. And then with the release of Samurai Showdown, they had limited editions or special editions of character themed Neo Geo Minis with the cool packaging and stuff. So this had more of the clear plastic and things like that. So you have the Hamaru, the Ukiyo, and the Nakaruru, and then the Kuroku. So the Kuroku or the Kuroko is a limited edition. So that one also had 48 games. So the Christmas and that Kuroko, whatever, had 48 unique games. Or I'm not going to say unique, but they had 48 games. I believe these other special editions also had 40 games. Let me see. Yeah, your Samurai Showdown special limited or Samurai Showdown special editions, which are the character themed ones that aren't Kuroko, those had 40 games also. So I'm going to be referencing all of those different versions, and then I'm also going to compare to the Fun R1, the Unico Fun R1, the Arcade Stick Pro, and the MVSX, because these were all SNK licensed products that held Neo Geo games inside the devices. Obviously, the MVSX holds the largest catalog of games compared to any of the other devices, but the Unico Fun R1 also had some games that hadn't been released before, and the Arcade Stick Pro has some unique titles too. But I'm not going to dig into each and every one of those. What I'm going to do is compare the MVS Mini game lineup compared to, or just mention when they were also introduced in other systems or devices. All right, so let's go ahead and get right into it. So right off the bat, we're going to start off with the King of Fighters collection. So what's cool about this is that the only other versions that had all of the King of Fighter catalog were the Asia and that Ace, that gold and black one, because they basically had the same game lineup. But in any of the other versions, you didn't have all of the King of Fighters. So again, if you're not a Neo Geo fan, you're just looking at King of Fighters. It's King of Fighters. But this is the entire collection of every Neo Geo released game for that Neo Geo platform, from King of Fighters 94 all the way to 2003. Every single game that was ever released for the Neo Geo of King of Fighters is here in this Neo Geo MVS system. Now, the only time that ever happened before was on that international, or not the international, the Asia version, and then that black and gold one too. The Ace is what they call it. So that's cool. That's unique because all of the other systems or all the other versions of it were missing primarily King of Fighters 94, King of Fighters 96, and King of Fighters 2003. Those are the ones that you wouldn't find on the international or any of the Samurai Showdown versions at all. So King of Fighters 94, 96, and 2003, those are the ones that you rarely see on any other Neo Geo Mini. Now, all of these games were brought back again for the Unico Fun R1 and the MVSX. So those two other devices also had the entire King of Fighters catalog. So let's go ahead and get into the next section. So the Metal Slug collection. This was a little interesting because it's just missing one game. So Metal Slug 2. Now, I guess I can kind of see the thought process behind it, because Metal Slug 2 was kind of had a lot of slowdown, had a lot of issues, so they created Metal Slug X to kind of offset that issue. And I'm on the camp of Metal Slug X is greater than 2. That's always been an argument that a lot of people think Slug 2 is better than X. Well, I'm Slug X is greater than 2. And Slug X is on this device and not Slug 2. So, but all of the other games are. So it has Metal Slug, Slug X, obviously, 3, 4, and 5. So these were all the games that were released for the Neo Geo platform. The only one missing is Metal Slug 2. So there's nothing to note here. There's nothing rare. All of these are very common throughout all the devices that I've mentioned earlier. In fact, most of them have appeared in every single device. Metal Slug being one of them, Slug 3 and 4. All three of those games have been on every single device that I showed earlier. The ones that probably they're all pretty common. So they're all very common. So Metal Slug's a very popular franchise, and so it's shown up in pretty much every device. So that's nothing to brag about there. But it's still cool that it has all the Metal Slugs. And then these aren't fighting games, right? So let's go ahead and get into the next one. So this one, I'm very pleased with because it's got every single Samurai Showdown that was ever released for the NEOGEO platform. And I'm not counting Perfect because that was never released for the NEOGEO. It came out later. It was some prototype loc test thing that was released and whatever. I'm not going to get into all that, but that doesn't count. These were actual physical releases that were released on both the home console and on MVS. But every single game, and this is my favorite franchise, probably my favorite fighting franchise of all time, Samurai Showdown. So it's got the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, and 5 specials. So Samurai Showdown 2 and 4 are probably the most popular in the entire series. My personal favorite is Samurai Showdown 2, but it's really cool that all of these Samurai Showdowns, and again, if you're not a NEOGEO fan, all you're seeing is just this bunch of freaking fighting games. And this is heavily fighting game, super fighting game filled version of the NEOGEO Mini. But you have to understand this, that it has every single Samurai Showdown that was ever released for the NEOGEO platform on this device. Nobody talks about that. Nobody brags about that on the MVSX. It's got like every freaking franchise. And again, this isn't an MVSX commercial or an advertisement or anything, but it never gets the credit that it's due because of what it offers. So this NEOGEO Mini, again, it has every single Samurai Showdown. None of these are rare. As a matter of fact, all of the Samurai Showdowns appeared on the Samurai Showdown special editions and limited editions, which makes sense, right? I mean, it should have all of them. Now, on the other versions, Samurai Showdown 2 was not available on international. On the Asia version or the Christmas limited edition didn't have Samurai Showdown 2. And it also didn't have Samurai Showdown 3 or 5. So Samurai Showdown 2, 3, and 5 are not... they're not the games that you would see in your international version, your Asia version, or even your Christmas limited edition. So all of these games were only grouped together in the other Samurai Showdown edition. So that's pretty cool that this one has it too. So the next one is the Fatal Fury collection. The only game I'm pretty sure that's missing is Fatal Fury 2. So if I get into Fatal Fury, so these are pretty common games also. The only one that shows it didn't really show up very often was Fatal Fury 3. So Fatal Fury 3 wasn't in the Asia or that Ace, that black and gold one. And it wasn't in any of the Samurai Showdown versions, but it was featured in the Christmas limited edition. Again, Fatal Fury 3 is one that was only shown or only included in the Christmas limited edition. And then the Unico Fun R1, the Arcade Stick Pro, and the MVSX. So Fatal Fury 3 is relatively new to the NEOGEO Mini if you didn't have the Christmas limited edition. And all the other games are pretty common. Let me look at the Real Bouts real quick. So Real Bout was not available. So the Asia version and international had Real Bout Fatal Fury. But if you have the Christmas limited edition or any of the Samurai Showdown versions, you didn't have Real Bout Fatal Fury. And Real Bout Fatal Fury 2, same deal. If you have a Christmas or any of the Samurai Showdown editions, you didn't have Real Bout Fatal Fury. Real Bout Fatal Fury. Let me correct that. So Real Bout Fatal Fury 2 is extremely common. The only time that it didn't show up was in the international version and in the Arcade Stick Pro. All right. So again, Fatal Fury series, they're pretty common throughout all of them, but there are some games that hadn't been featured in the NEOGEO Mini. And some of you might have a certain version of the NEOGEO Mini that didn't include some of these games. Let's look at Mark of the Wolves. So yeah, I would think so. So Mark of the Wolves is like Metal Slug. I mean, in terms of the fighting games, Mark of the Wolves showed up in every single device that's ever been released that had a NEOGEO SNK license to it. So Again, nothing new here with Mark of the Wolf. So let's go ahead and get into some of the interesting things. So now, if you're still with me, so this is where we're gonna get to some extremely rare titles that hadn't been featured in any Neo Geo Mini whatsoever until now. So let's start with Sengoku. So Sengoku has never been released on any other Neo Geo Mini. Fact check me, go back, look it up, do some research, whatever, but trust me, Sengoku has never been featured. Sengoku 2 has never been featured on any Neo Geo Mini. The only time that those two titles have been around or featured were on the Unico Fun R1 and the MVSX. Let me see. Yeah, the Unico Fun R1 and the MVSX. They were not featured on the Arcade Stick Pro. So unless you had those other devices, you officially didn't have Sengoku or Sengoku 2. So again, Sengoku and Sengoku 2, this is the first time that they're featured in any Neo Geo Mini. Sengoku 3, however, has been featured on every single device. Yep. Well, you know what? Except for the Arcade Stick Pro. So the Arcade Stick Pro didn't have Sengoku 3, which is Sengoku 2001, right? So that's interesting. So this is a first time. This is the first time appearance on any Neo Geo Mini with Sengoku and Sengoku 2. So that's pretty cool. Let's take a look at Savage Rain. So Savage Rain was only available on the Christmas Limited Edition. So this is the second time that Savage Rain has been featured on the Neo Geo Mini. Now, it has been available for the Arcade Stick Pro. Let me see. Yeah, the Arcade Stick Pro, the Fun R1, and the MVSX. So Savage Rain is pretty common on those non-mini devices. But as far as Neo Geo Mini, the only other time it's shown up is on the Christmas Limited Edition or the Christmas Edition. All right, so Magician Lord is pretty common. Magician Lord has been available on several Neo Geo Minis, so we're not going to spend time on that. Last Blade 1 and 2 together. Let's see. And that's an awesome franchise, too. So, like, Samurai Showdown 2 is, like, my number one. But then, like, Last Blade is right there, man, on the heels of it. It's better than a lot of the other Samurai Showdown other Samurai Showdown releases. And both of these. So, Last Blade. So, I would say, like, Samurai Showdown 2, Last Blade 1 and Last Blade 2, those are like the top three, man, in terms of like my sword fighting games and probably fighting games of all time or whatever. Those are my top three favorite because I enjoy the single player experience on Last Blade. I like the environment and all that. Again, we're not doing game reviews, but anyways, this is Last Blade 1 and 2. Let's see how often it's shown up on Neo Geo Mini. So the only time that they've been together is on the Asia version and that Ace version, that black and gold one. So for the Asia version of the Neo Geo Mini, you got Last Blade and Last Blade 2. If you have any other versions, you only have Last Blade 2 because Last Blade 1 was only featured in that system. Now, if you have the Arcade Stick Pro, the Fun R1, or the MVSX, you got both. So it's not rare in terms of like being featured on devices. It's just for Neo Geo Mini, only the Asia version had both of them, and only the Asia version had Last Blade 1. So that's cool. Let's look at Kizuna Encounter. So Kizuna Encounter is one of the most expensive games to buy for the home console. I've seen it upwards of $30,000, and that was years ago. So I don't know what it's fetching these days. But this is an extremely rare game to find for your home console. I'm not sure on the MVS. As with all other MVS games, I would imagine it's not as rare. But they're all expensive, man. So the fact that you have Kizuna Encounter available to you to try and play is pretty cool. But I think it's pretty common for all these devices. Let's check it out. So Kizuna Encounter, yeah, it's one of the ones that have been on every single system. So every Neo Geo Mini, the Arcade Stick Pro, MVSX, and Fun R1, it's been on all of those devices. So nothing new there. Shock Troopers is a little bit of a different story. So Shock Troopers it's kind of like hit and miss. It's been on the International, the Christmas Edition, and the Limited Samurai, which is the Kuroko one, or Kuroko, and on the Arcade Stick Pro and MVSX, but not on the Fun R1. All right, so pretty common. I mean, it's been out there, but so yeah, the big ones here are Sengoku 2, never been featured, so that's pretty cool. All right, so World Heroes Perfect, I imagine that's kind of been on everything. Yep, absolutely. Art of Fighting's been on every single one. Art of Fighting 3, I think that there's something special about that one. So yes, Art of Fighting 3 has never been featured on a NEOGEO Mini, ever. Right, so any of those other versions that I showed you, none of those have Art of Fighting 3. Turn on your device, look for it, you're not going to find it. No Art of Fighting 3, so this is the first NEOGEO Mini to feature arguably the best of the franchise, Art of Fighting 3. So that's pretty cool. Now, if you have an Arcade Stick Pro, Unico Fun R1, or MVSX, you're like, what the hell are you talking about? Yeah, I'm not talking about those devices because every single one of those has Art of Fighting 3. I'm saying NEOGEO Mini, man. So if you have another NEOGEO Mini, you don't have Art of Fighting 3. All right, so that's something that's unique to this device in particular. 3-count bout, I think, is pretty common. Well, actually, 3-count bout is pretty rare. The international version of the NEOGEO Mini has 3-count bout and the MVSX. That's it. No other device has the 3-count bout or has that title. So the Fun R1, the Arcade Stick Pro, any of the Samurai Limited Editions Christmas, or even the Asia version do not have 3-count bout. So it's one of those rare games that hasn't been featured in a lot of the devices. So that's kind of neat. That's interesting to see. Let's look at Super Sidekicks. So Super Sidekicks, I think, has been in quite a bit of devices, but let's double check. Super Sidekicks has been in every single device, so nothing new there. Top Players Golf, again, that's another crap game that's on every single device. Yep. Well, it wasn't on the Fun R1 or the Arcade Stick Pro, but it's been on every other NEOGEO Mini. I wish they were able to have Neo Turf Masters. That would have been awesome. So, Baseball Stars, here we go. This one is another one of those titles that has never been featured. So I've said that a couple of times, right? I've mentioned never before on any NEOGEO Mini. So that's there's a lot of firsts on this device. So the Baseball Stars Professional, has never been featured on any of the NEOGEO Minis. It wasn't in the Fun R1 or the Arcade Stick Pro. The only other time Baseball Stars has been available is on the MVSX. So if you haven't shelled out $500-600 for that unit, here's your time to spend a little bit of dough, a lot less money to get your hands on Baseball Stars Professional legitimately for the first time. It wasn't available on any other device. So again, this one is actually the rarest of all the games that I've mentioned before because it's only been featured one time on the MVSX and no other times on any of those other devices. So that's interesting. And then the last game we're going to look at is Football Frenzy. Let's see. So Football Frenzy, I think, is pretty common too. So the only time Football Frenzy has been available is on the international version. So that's a very common version. That's the one that most people have. If you have a NEOGEO Mini, you probably have that one. So you had it available there. But if you have an Asia or any of the special editions, you didn't have Football Frenzy. So now you can get it again, along with a lot of other unique games that hadn't been featured on any of the other NEOGEO Minis. So that's really it. I mean, that's the that's it. That's what's different about this device. It doesn't have any, added features. It doesn't have any improvements to the stick or the buttons or the HDMI output. It's the same internal device in terms of its, the system on the chip, the motherboard, and all that good stuff. Same I/O. It's the same. It's just a rebranded NEOGEO Mini, but hopefully, if you stuck around and listened to me about, these games, there's quite a bit of games that hadn't been featured before on any other NEOGEO Mini. So is that enough to get you to want to buy this device? I'll have a link to it in the description. Let me know in the comments what you think about that. Is it disappointing to you that it didn't have any improvements? Obviously, to me, I'm disappointed. I would have liked for them to have done some changes, listened to some of the feedback, and maybe made it, an updated version of this. But in any case, I think I gave you a lot more information than you were expecting, and more than certainly anyone else will even bother to dig into. But I am a NEOGEO fan, and if you are a NEOGEO fan, then maybe you'll appreciate a little bit about what I shared. Anyone else that's here this long, why did you stay this long? Because, it's full of fighting games, right? But it's kind of cool that you have the whole library of Samurai Showdown and King of Fighters and pretty much all the great Metal Slugs. X is greater than 2. So you do have a lot of great games. The NEOGEO has a great library of games. It's one of my favorite consoles of all time, favorite systems, favorite games that are available. And but now you have some unique games that hadn't been featured in any other NEOGEO Mini. So that's what differentiates this from all the other guys. But let me know what you think. Leave comments. Give me a thumbs up and a subscribe and all that stuff. I never asked for that, but why not? Why the hell not? 2024 is right around the corner, and Daddy's got to take his, send his little girl to college, so every penny counts. But anyway, thanks a lot, guys. Thanks for listening. Thanks for hanging out with me in a static screen and no video and just listening to my input. And yeah, I'm a bit of a nerd when it comes to these games because I have a whole spreadsheet that I could have shown you. That breaks down like all the games, and it's kind of ridiculous actually. But anyway, thanks for checking out the channel, and hopefully I'll have some more info on other devices and other things in the future. But Happy New Year to everybody. Bye.